This happened when I was 17. It was a normal night like all the others. After a long school day and getting a ton of schoolwork done, I was finally going to get some sleep. So I got into my favorite comfy pajamas and slipped into my bed. I instantly fell asleep in no time, and it was the most relaxing feeling ever. However, sometime later, I felt direct light into my eyes, which woke me up. I opened my eyes, and at first, the vision was blurry, but then it slowly started clearing up. When I could properly see, I saw an old, horrifying woman with messy hair and a staff at my bedside. I immediately started to panic and scream for help, but I realized that I couldn't speak. But before we move on, like this video, hit that subscribe button, and activate the notification bell, and something interesting will be revealed to you in your dreams tonight. Trust me, it works. Then the woman started speaking. Do not panic. I come to you with a message. The sooner I deliver the message, the sooner I'll leave, she said, so I stopped trying to scream. What message could it be? I thought, thinking it would be something good, but it was nowhere near good. If you ever sleep again in your life, you are going to die, she said, and started getting out of the room. It left me shocked and confused, and I had so many questions, so I started screaming at her again to wait. But as before, I couldn't utter a word. But I was trying so hard that I finally was able to scream on the top of my lungs. Wait! Right then, I woke up and realized everything that happened at that moment was just a dream. The woman was not real, but what she said was horrifying enough to leave me with a scar. And since then, I started fearing sleep. It was already morning when I woke up, so I got ready for school and headed out. I didn't think much of the night before at school, and everything went on as normal. After school was over, I headed back home, and soon it was night, but I didn't want to sleep. I was absolutely freaked out by the idea of sleeping, thinking it would lead to my death, even though I knew that woman was just a dream. My mind was playing games with me as I was overthinking things that could happen to me if I slept, so I couldn't even look at the bed. I had made up my mind that I was not going to sleep at any cost. So I went down to the kitchen and made some coffee, took out some energy drinks from the fridge, and went back to my room. Like that, I focused all night on drinking coffee and energy and getting a lot of schoolwork done, which was not as hard as I had thought it would be. At the end of the night, I was feeling optimistic, thinking I could totally make it without sleeping. It was morning soon, and I got ready and went to school as usual. Throughout my time in school, I did feel a little tired, but not very exhausting. It was a regular day despite the fact that I hadn't slept. However, when the second night arrived, things started getting a little troublesome. I was getting more and more afraid of the idea of sleeping, but my body and mind were drowning in exhaustion. But I couldn't even close my eyes even for a few seconds, because whenever I felt like sleeping, I would see the face of that old scary lady in my dreams and would get so scared that I would completely give up on the idea. However, I had to do something to stay up all night and keep myself busy and stay afar from sleeping. For that, I put on my headphones, turned on a piece of dancing music to the loudest, and sipped on my coffee and started dancing. You see, I was willing to do anything to stay awake. After dancing for some time, I filled my bathtub with ice cubes and took an ice bath without thinking of the consequence, because any consequence at that time to me was better than sleeping and not waking up after. That night passed and it was another day at school. But this day was different from the others because I was visibly exhausted. I was tired, weak, and drained. And honestly, I hadn't even wanted to come to school in the first place, but I had no choice. So I was walking in the hallway, and the popular boys, aka the bullies, noticed me coming, and they must have probably seen my tired face. As I was walking past them, one of them screamed, "Hey, you have trash bags under your eyes," to me, suggesting my eye bags. And all the other guys laughed. I was so embarrassed that I quickly ran to my classroom. In the class, too, my friends must have noticed me looking weak, so one of my friends, Kara, asked me, "Mindy, you look sick. Are you fine? What's going on with you?" At that point, I totally regretted not wearing makeup that day, but I told her that it was nothing and that I was fine and nothing was wrong. But the way they were so concerned about me and the way I looked, I bet they didn't believe me for a second and knew something was going on. So, just like that day came to an end and another dreadful night arrived. It was going to be the third night in a row without sleeping. but I had no idea how I was going to make it through that gruesome night. So I started planning for some ways to stay awake. I took out my diary and started making a list of ways that could keep me up. The first on the list was energy drinks and coffee, which had become a regular for me. The second was an ice bath, like the one I had taken the night before, but I was not a big fan of that option. Then the third thing I listed was going for a walk. Going for a walk, perfect, I thought. As bad of an idea as it was, going for a walk alone at night, it didn't seem that bad to me at the time as falling asleep and dying. So I put on my hoodie and walking shoes and got ready to head out. I snuck out of the house very quietly so that my parents wouldn't hear me going out. I didn't want to trouble them or get in trouble myself. So I got on walking and it was helping a lot. I was enjoying the quiet and the cool breeze of the night and the twinkling stars. I walked up to some point for about 30 minutes, and then I thought it was too far from home. Also, I started getting a little scared, and just as I was turning back, I saw some shadowy figures of people behind me. At first, I didn't think much of it, but after walking some distance, I felt as if they were still behind me. Are they following me? I thought because it seemed like that, but I had to make sure. So I fastened up my pace a little and started walking hastily, and they too changed their pace and were still behind me. At that point, I got scared for my life and didn't know what to do, so I started to run without thinking. And while running too, I could still feel the people behind me were running after. I was pretty sure that if I didn't get to the house first, those people would kidnap me. And thankfully, after some time, I finally reached home completely out of breath, got in, and immediately locked the doors behind me. I even checked if other doors and windows in my house were locked, or not, and after making sure they were, I went to my room. Then, the rest of the night that was remaining, I spent it looking out the window to see if those people had followed me to my house, and if they were still there. But nothing as such happened, and the morning finally came. It felt like such a long night. So it was time to get ready to go to school, but I was so tired that I couldn't even get up from the chair I was sitting on. Then suddenly, my mom came to my room to check up on me. "Sweetie, Zara called saying you didn't look good at school yesterday," she said, opening the door to my room. But as soon as she saw me, almost lifeless, however still conscious because of the fear of sleeping, she ran to me and touched my face to check the fever. Instantly after that, she started screaming for my dad because I was burning up with a fever. He came up running and they rushed me to the emergency room. The doctor there checked on me and instantly figured out that I was sleep deprived. So she asked the nurse to give me some anesthesia so that I could get some rest and be cared for because my fever was clearly due to the exhaustion. But I was not up for it. The anesthesia was going to make me go to a state of sleep. That terrified me. So I resisted and screamed and cried not to be made unconscious. Now when I think of it, I wonder how I got the energy to resist and scream even though I was so weak. The doctor suspected what was going on with me quickly, but it was not her area of expertise, so she made an emergency appointment with another doctor, a psychiatrist, and then my parents took me to her. There, the psychiatrist asked me to give the details of what was going on in my mind and what I was so afraid of. So I told her everything that had happened, from the dream about the old scary lady, what she had said, and all the things I had done to stay awake from that moment. She immediately figured out my problem and diagnosed me with somnophobia, a fear of sleeping, in her case, thinking she would die, she told my parents. After the diagnosis, since I was very sick and my condition was getting worse and worse, she started my treatment right away. And for that, her first step was getting me at least some sleep. So she transferred me to another room along with my parents. There was a bed there, and later a few chairs were brought in so that my parents and the doctor could sit around me. Then she started to talk to me, which made me feel safe. She told me that nothing would happen to me as they would be right there protecting me. She also gave me a gummy telling me it would make me feel better, which I later realized was a melatonin gummy. The doctor was really successful wearing down my fear because finally, after 4 days, I was able to give in and fall asleep. After 6 hours, I got up finally, and it felt like I was just reborn. I felt way better and less exhausted, and even my fever was down. Then the doctor further suggested cognitive behavioral therapy for my treatment, and for me to meditate and listen to soothing music if I didn't feel like sleeping, so that my body and mind would still get some rest. After that, slowly, I started feeling better and better every day. However, I would occasionally feel scared to fall asleep, and at those times, I would either meditate, which helped but not much, or ask my mom to watch over me while I fell asleep, which made me feel safe and calm. It took time, but after months of therapy, I finally started getting over my fear of thinking I would die if I go to sleep. I forgot about the old scary lady like a stupid dream, and things started to turn around, and for that, I couldn't thank my doctor enough. Thanks for watching. Do you have any phobias? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and check out the other videos on the channel.